Okay, hi everyone, so I'm Smithy and today this is game 24, and this is where you get to tell me to my face that I'm a stinking liar. That everything I've been teaching you, extolling throughout this course, is just flat out wrong. Why? Because here's a game uh, where white plays d4, and then let's look what black does. Okay, black's gonna play f5. Oh my, he's weakening that king's diagonal. Let's go forward a few more squares. Look at this. Black has now made three pawn moves, most of them unnecessary. And now, okay, he's going to. Oh, look, black is moving a piece twice in the opening. Exchange. Now he's getting greedy. Oh my. So what has black done? A whole bunch of pawn moves. Move a piece twice. He's winning material instead of focusing on time. After queen f3, look, more pawn moves. Oh my goodness. Moves that bishop back. Look at this. White has two pieces developed. He's already castled. Rook eyeing the queen. Doesn't this look terrible for black? Bishop d3, white is fully developed. Black has absolutely nothing. All for the sake of one pawn. Isn't this an example that you'd expect white to win in the next five moves? And look what black does. Black's going to play a5, he's going to play a4, he's going to play a3. He's just moving his pawns. He's still not developed. And then, just a few moves later, oh, he gets a fork. He finally develops a piece, and white resigns. How on earth can black get a winning advantage when he completely floats every single um, rule that I've been teaching? And so this is a really fun game, and it's a really interesting game because everything I said is true. In this game, I violated essentially every opening principle, and yet if you look at it through the computer, virtually all my moves were in the top 1 to 2 choices throughout. So I'm not saying that I was cheating, but what I'm trying to say is that my moves were correct, but they violated the principles. How can that work? And so this is where, again, I'm trying to, give you that sort of the warning is that yes, opening principles are great and they're powerful and they're wonderful and they'll change your life, but we still need to calculate. Raw calculation still helps us. So the opening, I'm going to just sort of, pass over just a little bit. No, let's not. Let's actually look at this because, again, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't study theory back then. Bishop f4. Bishop is on a good diagonal. It'd be on a great diagonal, this pawn are on d5. But if it's on d6, notice how I'm putting my pawn on a square that's limiting the effectiveness of that bishop. And let's not ignore what white did in this game, because white ended up playing knight goes to d2 with a very specific idea. White wants to be able to play e4. So see how the knight and the other knight are both supporting e4? If white can get the e4 break in the Dutch, this is turned into the Dutch opening, then generally white is doing very, very well. The problem with white is that white has now moved his knight twice trying to do this. And so when we see our opponents violating the opening principles, right, that sort of is our tactical alertness. We should do something to try and punish that, right? Don't just do a normal move. Is there something else? And after knight goes to h5, it's actually really annoying for white. This bishop has no good squares, right? Like if it tries to retreat anywhere, actually, it can just get trapped. Uh, you know, h6, g5, that's all she wrote. And so the bishop actually can't move. And also, it's really annoying, by moving the knight here, the queen no longer defends d4. And so white ends up playing e3, takes, and then he's lost a pawn. But this isn't just any pawn. This is a center pawn. Remember how we're supposed to fight for the center? If you can win a center pawn and nothing bad happens, you have to do that 100 times out of 100. Queen goes to f3. Now here I play c6. Why didn't I just castle? Because if I castle, queen goes to d5, whoops, and I lose a piece. So again, yes, we have to follow the opening principles, but we still need to calculate. By playing c6, this is it's a thematic move sort of in the structure. Notice how it's stopping the knight from jumping to any of these two squares, which it would absolutely love to do. This knight never actually does anything in the game, you'll notice. Um, but it does that, and it stops queen goes to d5, so it's preparing me to castle. So is it a pawn move? Yeah. But is there any non-pawn move I could have done in this position that would let me castle next move? Not really. Okay, maybe I could play knight goes to c6, because then the knight is defending the bishop. But then I always have to worry about a knight goes to d5 later in the middle game. And so I ended up playing c6. Fine move. Computer says it's the best one. I attack my bishop. Comes back. He castles. I castle. Bishop goes to d3. And then I get funky with this a5. And do you know what's funny? A5 is the best move. And now let's think about that. How on earth in this position can a5 be the best move when we're behind in development? White has all the time in the world. There's an open center. And this is where we have to get into some calculation ideas, and this is where also some strategic ideas come into factor. Notice how it's opposite side castle. So he's on this side, I'm on this side. In such situations, the middle game plan, more often than not, is to throw your pawns at your opponent and just attack. That's what we're doing. You could think of it in a certain way that playing a5 is almost developing this rook, right? Because I'm trying to push this pawn, I do push this pawn, and then my rook is getting active. My rook is sort of helping this pawn go forward. And it's kind of the problem for white is that white really needs to play a5 in response. Isn't that an ugly move? This is going to give my knight a beautiful square on b4, and it gives me a wonderful plan to play bishop goes to d7, and that's going to help me push, not that, ugh, okay, that's the idea. I'm going to play bishop d7, I'm going to play b5, and because white has made all these pawn moves, I'm going to be able to open lines, and just imagine, if those pawns disappear, my rooks, my queens slide over, armed with this bishop, that's just going to be checkmate. Like, white cannot survive in this sort of position. Or at least, strategically, that's what it looks like. That's why white didn't play a5. But notice what happens if you don't play a5, okay, he brings his rook in. I can just keep pushing that pawn. And where can that knight go? Nowhere. I can keep pushing that pawn. And now we got this other problem. If this pawn were to move or to take, I don't even need to recapture. I just take the knight. Oh no. And so what's happened is that after it takes, yes, my pawn has marched all the way down the board. It's completely destroyed white's position. How did I find that? Like, what led me to thinking that? It was, again, this sort of strategic idea that I need to be able to attack in the middle game. Or let's actually just sort of go back one step. How do I finish development in this position? Let me just delete these arrows. Where should I put my pieces? Do I want to put my knight here where it blocks the bishop? Probably not. My bishop has nowhere to go. Do I put my bishop here where it blocks the knight? I don't know. If I put my bishop on e6, that just kind of rocks into rook e1 right away. And now he's developing with tempo. Bishop is just staring at a pawn. Is this the best my bishop can do? How do I develop my pieces? I could think about something like knight a5, right? Where it wants to go to b4, but any time white could play a3, and now my knight is just sitting here doing nothing. How do I develop my pieces? By playing a5, what I'm doing is I'm allowing my knight, again, if white stops it, I've got a beautiful outpost. Now I know where I want to put that knight. Now I can put the bishop here with absolutely no problems because it's not blocking my other knight, and it's preparing b5. b5 makes much more sense when both those pawns are there. And of course, the other idea is that if he does nothing, then this is actually an attacking move. I get to force my opponent backwards. You see what he's done? He's just had to completely rearrange his pieces. He's afraid of taking this because then he's walking into this pin, and my queen's going to come out, and all of a sudden he's getting destroyed. And that's why he ends up moving his king over here. But now we see the problem. His king is in the center. He actually has no development. It's all superficial. e5. And then my opponent, he simply misses the facts. He was worried about something like this, where the bishop is going to slide over with check, so he plays g3, but he just missed that this was a simple 4. And when your position is so bad as white's position is, it's easy to overlook some of these tactics, right? And you can also imagine how tilted you are when it looks like your opponent is violating all the rules and you're in a terrible, terrible position. But I'll just, again, so it's take. I develop a piece, and he resigns. But what can this game teach us? So there's an exception to every rule. That's really the idea. This is the only example in the 100 plus that I have in the course where the side with the leading development loses. The only one. The only side where the guy who makes a bunch of pawn moves and wins a pawn early on wins. So I'm never going to say it doesn't happen, right? It can happen. But I need you to understand the logic behind that. And really, the idea is we follow the principles, but we do it backing up with calculation. Again, A5, as funny as it sounds, even though it's an unnecessary pawn move on the side of the board doing absolutely nothing, is the best way for us to finish our development. I know it seems funky and it seems crazy, but hopefully my explanation of that made sense. Now, you got to be careful that you don't take this too far, because then you can start rationalizing almost any move that you want to make. Um, but the idea, again, the opening principles, they're more than just things that we teach beginners. It's a foundational chess idea that will help you find moves like this, where, again, if I were to back up, it's not just like what move do I play? It's sort of like how do I finish development? How can I make my pieces like the most effective that they're going to be in the coming middle game? How do I do that? And if you were to dig deep, this isn't like one of those 15-second decisions that you're going to be able to do in a like a bullet game or blitz game or something. But if you really dig deep and you analyze and you ask, how can I best do that? That is how you'll at least start considering moves like A5, followed by A4, and getting your piece to develop that way. So I hope that again, I hope this helps. I hope this isn't just going to confuse you and now give you permission to make all the crazy opening moves you want. And say, oh yeah, yeah, this is what Smithy would have wanted. The principles they still matter, but you need to back them up with calculation. All right, so that's it. We got one game left. This has been an incredible ride. Uh, I'm not going to ramble anymore. So I'm Smithy Q. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.